Hello and welcome to Creating Connected Relationships. I'm going to start with a story really quick. What does it matter about a sock? My husband yelled at me very angrily some number of years ago. You see, we had been spring cleaning all day, and I had been nitpicking him all day about the quality of his cleaning work. The windows that still had streaks on them, the crumbs that were on the kitchen floor, and this sock not making it in the washing machine. And I was like, "Oh, you missed a sock," was the straw that broke the camel's back. And suddenly my husband is yelling at me about a sock. But we all know it has nothing to do with this sock. So my name is Kitty Coy, and I'm so passionate to be here today to tell you all about how to create connected relationships so that you never end up in a situation where you are at each other's throats with somebody you love over something as simple as a sock not making it in the washing machine. Let me share my presentation really quick. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is 3 secrets to creating connected relationships. So relationships are like this beautiful dance. And when you're in this place, you're moving in harmony. It's beautiful. You're connected. You're holding each other's hands. You're moving in step. And so it feels really good. It looks good. And it's absolutely like just a great experience. And then at some point in all relationships, we end up to the point where we are frustrated, we're yelling at each other, we are snipping for no reason. And we're going to talk about not only how to get out of this and 3 secrets to creating connected relationships, but I want to tell you a little bit about the story about how did this happen? How did this amazing, beautiful dance go to a place where you're stepping on each other's toes, you're not following the other partner's lead, you're feeling resentful, and you are potentially even yelling at your partner. So let's talk about how we got there. The honeymoon stage in a relationship is when we are so in love, and the energy of love is a high vibration emotion. And so what that does is it puts us in this is elevated mood state. Like when we're in love, we're actually happier in every aspect of our life. And what happens in that time is when we're in love, we say positive things, we put love and gratitude into the world, and the best of us brings out the best in our partner, and that brings out the best of us, and that brings out the best of our partner, and it becomes this beautiful like the snowball effect, where it gains this momentum, where we're really showing up as the best version of ourselves when we're in this love place. And I love, so the honeymoon stage, and all none of these stages last forever, but I want to share with you, you can go in and out of all of these stages. Like you can slide back and forth through these 3 stages at any moment with intention. And that's why I'm going to talk to you about each stage. But the honeymoon stage is fun. Again, no stage is permanent. This is tends to be some of the most short-lived, but we'll tell you how to get back to that and just create, because when you're in a connected place, you can stay in the honeymoon stage for a long time. I've been with my husband for 10 years, and it comes and goes when I feel like I'm in the honeymoon and then the next stage. But there will be times where we spend years, and like, really all of 2024, we've been back in the honeymoon stage of our relationship. And it really started in sometime in 2023. And so you can go back to the stage at any point. But what I love about this stage is that something as simple as making a smoothie together is a time to show each other how much you love each other. And then over time, and time goes on, and we start to notice little things that irk us or irritate us about our partner. We start to notice the things that we don't like, things that when we were in a place of love, we had like blinders on and we couldn't see maybe their idiosyncrasies of these little things. Like I remember I'm over it now because I just don't even care. But I'd never noticed that my husband just left his socks in the living room every day. And then for a while, that really it got to me. I started to be very bothered that I was like, why do I have to clean up socks every day? You aren't a grown adult man. And I would ask him, I was like, hey, could you pick up your socks? And every day I would when I was closing down the house and turning off the lights, the socks would still be there. So that built up resentment and irritation and all of these things. And we're not as connected to our partner. And time goes on, and things build and things build and things build until we're getting to this point where we're actually like in an animosity relationship with our partner. Like we might actually be yelling at them. And what happens in this stage of our relationship where we get triggered by something that happens, and it could be them or the external world, but when you're in a place of love and that high vibration emotion, you actually, it's much harder to get triggered. But as time goes on, you get when you get irritated, we go lower in the emotional vibration state. And what happens is we get triggered by something, then we get upset and maybe we yell or we say something we don't mean, and then now suddenly the worst of us is bringing out the worst in them, which brings out the worst of us, and it's a snowball in the negative direction. And we end up in this place where if we don't watch it, we can feel so disconnected to our partner. And this is when big problems start to build. If this stage progresses, because it's a continuum really, from the honeymoon to things building, and I guess the middle stage is the transition stage. But the explosive stage is where this gets, and like that's the far end of it. If we let it get all the way there, that's when negative things like divorce and breakups and fights that we have to like reconcile and pick up the pieces. That's when that happens, is when we let these things build up. And what I want to share with you today is I'm going to teach you tools about how to not get there and how to get back, at least into the transition stage in the middle where you're not yelling at each other and things like that, if not back into the full honeymoon stage. So, what happened that we transitioned through these stages? We built a brick wall. Every time we have an argument, there's another brick on the wall. Every time we find something that irritates us about our in this relationship, is another brick on the wall. Every time we can't see eye to eye, there's another brick on the wall. Every time we have a miscommunication, there's another brick on the wall. And what happens is these bricks can be added because of anything. It's really just times where we're not on the same page. We're not like jiving with our partner. Like we don't feel good in the relationship, or we're irritated, or we're upset with them, or we say something we don't mean. It's just another brick in the wall. But this brick wall, there's two ways, and I'm sure there's more, but the two main ways that this brick wall gets really high and really long really fast is the longer you've been together, the more potential for bricks in the wall, because the more interactions you've had that could potentially go negative. And so that's why, you'll hear people and they're like married for 27 years and then got divorced. They were not, they must have started building bricks on the wall and they couldn't take bricks down. And then the other thing that happens, I was talking to and working with a couple that they actually had only been together like 3 years, but they had two kids under two. And so suddenly they're fighting a lot because they have these big stressful life events. So that's another reason. Anytime we're stressed and we have, frayed wires, or we're anxious, or, feeling some of those things, we tend to lash out at others. And so, or, they feel, and it creates this tense situation, and we build bricks on the wall. And if the bricks get so high and so long and so wide, if that brick wall is so wide that we can't see our partner anymore, or whoever this is, because anyways, if we can't see the other person in the relationship, that's when things get serious, because all we see is this brick wall of the arguments, the things we don't like about them, the places we're irritated, the places we're not connecting, that's all we can see, because we built the brick wall to be too big. And I just want to share with you, this happens in all relationships in your life, or this could happen. This continuum is all relationships in your life. It's not just your like romantic relationships or intimate partnerships. Like this applies to all relationships in your life. And so take a minute right now and just think about somebody in your life. Like, and maybe it's like whatever inspired you to jump on this call and learn more today. Call up that person in your mind, and whichever relationship you're really wanting to repair, you want more connection, and you want more connection enough that you were inspired to get on this call. So just go ahead and think about this person really quick. And as we move through this presentation, I want you to keep thinking about this person again and again, so that you can apply these situations, these tools I'm teaching you. How would that work in this relationship that you're thinking of? So let's get into the 3 secrets already. So secret number 1 is our words can make or break our relationships. So Play along with me if you'd like to. I'm going to give you instructions and walk you through the demonstration. And then if you feel like playing along, I would love for you to play along at home. So what we're going to do, and it doesn't matter which hand, it's all good, whichever hand you want, we're going to make a circle with our index finger and our thumb. And the purpose of this circle is to never let the circle get broken. Like, we're going to hold this really tight so nothing ever happens. The circle never gets broken. With our other hand, we're going to put an index finger in that hole, and we're going to see if we can break this connection in the other hand. And we're going to say different words and then pull and see what happens. So we're going to play along and say, hold this together. We're going to say, I can't hold my fingers together 5 times. I can't hold my fingers together. 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 Hold as tight as you can and pull. It came right through. And I would love to hear, put yes in the chat if that's what happened to you as well. And so now let's set it up again. And we're going to do the index finger and thumb. The other index finger goes through the hole. And what we're going to do is we're going to say the phrase, I can hold my fingers together 5 times. I can hold my fingers together. 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 Hold real tight and pull. What happened? Put strong in the chat if you actually, your fingers didn't break that time. And what I love about this, and what you might be asking is, what the heck does this have to do, this finger exercise have to do with relationships? I love it. That's so fun that it worked for you as well. I would say 90% of the time it works. There are some reasons why people's energetically, you can have some things going on in your body where it doesn't work, but your body reacts so strongly and so instantaneously to the words that you say, and it affects your physiology in an instant. And that's why I use this finger demonstration to show you how much your words actually change your body's physiology. So negative words in our life create disconnection. They make us weak. And that disconnection it's not just our fingers. That's just what I use to demonstrate. That disconnection is a disconnection from our joy, a disconnection from our life, our partner, our work, our purpose, a disconnection from our higher self, the authentic version of ourselves that we're growing into. And it's sad. And that's when we're in this using negative words and we're feeling disconnected, that's when we create conflict in our lives. And that's when we're saying things we don't mean, because when you're disconnected from your authentic self, when I'm disconnected from my authentic self, I am snappy. I tend to say things and then later be like, wow, that was not compassionate or kind at all. And so the opposite is true as well. When we say positive words, we're connected in our relationships, not only connected in our fingers, we're not only connected to our joy and our life and our career or our purpose or whatever, but we're connected to our partnerships, all of our relationships in our life. And most importantly, we're connected to our inner authentic self. And so that's why I think it is so important for us to really focus on what words are you using in this relationship. And because we have an extra minute, I'm going to tell you a quick story of how I found this out in my life, and how powerful this was about the physiology in your words. In 2009, I fell down one stair. I literally just tripped on one stair. But I had this major accident, a major ankle injury is a better way I would say it. And it seemed so simple. It was just one stair. But I ended up, and so I went to the emergency room. They said that there was no treatment for what happened to me. I had overstretched my ligaments and tendons, but there was no surgery. There was nothing. They literally put me in a cast and said, well, good luck. And when I asked them, well, what's the expected healing time of this injury? The doctors in the emergency room said to me, oh, we don't know if you're going to heal, let alone when. So those negative words got in my mind. And I spent 14 months in a wheelchair, crutches, cast boot, brace, unable. And every time I would stand on my ankle for even a short period of time, it would swell really bad. So I had all these compression sleeves and all these crazy things I had to do for 14 months. And after a year of not healing, I went back and I've been doing physical therapy. I've been doing everything they said. But what I didn't realize until about a year in, I went back to physical therapy for like the third time or something to be like, you need to give me more exercises. I have a problem with my ankle. And in my opinion, and I'm not even religious, but in my opinion, that physical therapist was an angel here to give me an intervention in my life, because they asked me a bunch of questions. And at the end of their questions, they said, Kitty, you don't have an ankle injury. You have a mindset injury. I was saying things like, that's my bad leg. And I would do that if my leg wasn't, or my ankle wasn't broken right now. And so I was talking about how unabled I felt, and how much distress that had caused me in my life and all these things. And I was so focused on the negativity of this ankle injury and how it was ruining my life. And that person, that physical therapist said to me, and they're like, I'm going to give you exercises for 2 weeks, but they're mindset exercises. They're not physical exercises. And then I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. And I want you to do them every day, twice a day. And then tell me what happens. And so I held my ankle and I pet it. This is literally what they told me to do. I held my ankle and I pet it and I told it I love it and it's part of my body and we're going to heal together, because you see, the negative words in my mind had actually disconnected me from a part of my body, and I had blocked the blood flow to my foot with my words, which at the time, 15 years ago, I was like, no, that's not possible. That can't possibly be real. And what ended up happening is I did 2 weeks of these mindset exercises, honestly, out of spite. I wanted to prove this person wrong, that it was a physical injury and not a mindset injury that had stopped my healing. And in 2 weeks, I had made a 90% recovery from where I was to where I wanted to be. And that showed me the power that our words have in being connected in our bodies. And I literally disconnected with my body with the words I was using about my injury in my head. And that's why I'm so passionate about telling these stories and sharing these tools, because I improved my health, what felt like miraculously, just by shifting the words I was using to talk about my injury. So anyways, this applies to everything in our lives. Our body, we can stay connected to our body parts, our partners, our authentic selves. And we want to be in that place of connection, because that is where we have access to our creativity, being in a flow state, our love. All of these amazing things come when we're connected to ourselves, and then in turn, when we're connected to others. So secret number 2, we expect people to read our minds. So you might be saying to me, Kitty, I don't expect anybody to read my mind, but we do. So let me, you've probably heard, or either you've done this or you've heard about this. I don't remember ever doing this, but it is a paper mache volcano that you did in elementary school, or maybe you had a kid, or maybe you've just heard of it, where you make this volcano and then you fill it with baking soda, and you fill it and you fill it and you fill it with baking soda. And then one thing at the end, you add just some vinegar, and then it explodes everywhere. This is what happens to your emotions when you have unmet needs that you haven't expressed to your partner. And so we don't want this explosion to be happening. So let me talk about what you can do. First, I want you to think about one thing that you need to feel connected in your relationship, especially focusing on one thing that you haven't expressed, or maybe even haven't acknowledged as a need. And while you think about, hint, if you don't know the one thing you need to feel connected in your relationship, if you can't think about it, it's probably your love language. It's probably the thing that when people like whatever they do that makes you feel the most special. And my love languages are acts of service and quality time. So like my husband learned a long time ago, and he can say beautiful things and give me gifts, but what makes the biggest difference to me is like the I live in Colorado, the snowy days where without even asking, like I'm in the shower and he's already gone off and cleared off and like started my car and cleared off all the snow. Like that's a simple thing he can do that shows me he loves me. And so we learned that because we talked about our love languages and worked through that. But I want to give you an example of how this affects your everyday relationships and maybe, beyond your intimate partnership. So during COVID, I'm enthusiastic. I'm a coach. I've got lots of energy. I've got lots of great relationships, and I did a lot of work. During COVID. I checked in with a lot of people. Hundreds of people I was keeping tabs on and connecting because what else was I going to do? As an extrovert, I needed my people fix. So I was calling a couple people every day, and I would rotate through and call people every few weeks. I was texting, 10 people every day. And so I was putting all these call outs just to be like, hey, how are you doing? Anything I can do to support you? Do you need a friend? Do you want to play games online? Do you want to watch a movie via Zoom? You're like, well, how can I support you? And I started to realize after a while, I was like, some of these people were reaching out back to me, and like some other time, and some people responded, some people didn't. That's their prerogative. They were going through with their own journey. That's totally fine. But there were some people that reached back out to me and was like, Kitty, how are you? How are you? What can I do with you? Do you want to go on a walk and walk on opposite sides of the street or something like that? A socially distanced hike. What can I do to support you? And I started to realize that was only like 5% of the people I was reaching out to, maybe. And I started to notice, and there was a lot of people that was kind of surprised that they never reached out to me. And again, everybody had their own experience. There's no judgment. But what I did and what that helped me notice is the thing I need to feel most connected in a relationship is quality time. And like literally a thinking of you text goes a long way, even if there's no question or there's no conversation, but it's just dropping a line. But really, my favorite thing is to spend time with the people in my life. And so I started communicating that to people, the people that I was like, oh, I'm kind of surprised this person hasn't reached out to me. And I said, you know what? I need to feel connected. Or what do you need to, first I started with, what do you need to feel connected in relationships? And a lot of times people wouldn't know off the top of their head. So I said, well, here's what I need to feel connected in relationships. I just want a little bit of your time. Like I would just love to have a conversation once a quarter, 4 times a year. That's all I really, and some people was a little bit more, but I was like, I just, want to keep our relationship alive. And maybe it's a phone call, maybe that's a happy hour, like whatever. Um, but I just want a little bit of your time and attention. And so I just want to let you know, like, if reaching out to me means a lot and things like that. And then I help them, like, what can I do to support you? Like, what makes you feel connected and supported in a relationship? Because it's always a two-way street. You don't want to be like, here's what I need, figure it out, you do it. But it was my expression of those things. I hadn't yet acknowledged it as a need until I started to notice a little bit of like resentment and hurt feelings. And so then once I let go of the resentment and I said, but I haven't even told these people what I want or need. And then that's when I felt empowered. My relationships got better because I focused on the one thing I needed. I communicated it clearly and kindly. But it started with figuring it, acknowledging it as myself, which is why I wanted to ask you this question. What's one thing you need to feel connected in a relationship? And hint, it's probably your love language or one of your top love languages. And it's different. There's acts of service. My husband really like acts of service and quality time and physical touch. And with other people, it's more quality time. I don't expect other people to do physical touch, or although I do love hugs, physical touch or acts of service as much. So it might be different for different people, but look into your love languages if you don't know them off the top of your head. Okay, moving on. So we want you to avoid the explosion. And this, when you acknowledge what you need and you express it kindly and clearly, this is how you avoid the explosion. You get clear on your needs. What do you need to feel happy, healthy, supported in a relationship? And then you communicate that kindly, calmly, clearly in a time where it's not like in the heat of the moment. Nothing good is ever said in the heat of the moment, but you can just calmly state this and find win-win situations in your household. So like my husband's love language is words of affirmation. And so I would say like I love you a couple times a week, or like thank you. Like I got sat at my desk and I had forgot my coffee. He delivered it for me. But now I say thank you or I love you at least 2 to 3 times a day, because he's expressed to me that how much it means to him. And so we can always meet each other halfway. And that's a way that we avoid the explosion. And I want to give a little caveat right here, because a lot of the clients that I end up working with will say things like, well, I have expressed my needs, but they're still not being met. And so oftentimes that is a communication issue. I also teach webinars on communication. And so if you feel like you've communicated, you've acknowledged your need, you've communicated your need, and it's not being met, oftentimes there is either a communication issue or there's a communication issue, or you're needing to use some additional tools. And that's what I work on with my clients, is giving them the tools, whatever that is. There's a lot of fun neuroscience based tools, because I didn't really introduce myself, but I'm a neuroscientist. So I use a lot of neuroscience based tools in my coaching. And so the neuroscience based tools really help people in their relationship get through this place to where they're not exploding on their partner. So let's talk about secret number 3. Secret number 3 is our focus affects every aspect of our lives. So let me tell you a little story and follow along. And the imagine that you're at work and it's been a long, hard, stressful week. And you walk around from office to office and you're closing out. It's a Friday evening. You're closing out the office and you grab all the trash from the week and you put it all together in bags. And then you put those bags in your car and you drive home. You open the front door and then you just dump all that trash all over your living room and you just throw it at your partner. And so who's been there? Raise your hand. Well, what's interesting is we all do this all of the time. Although you might not resonate with the trash analogy, we dump on our partners and the people in our lives all the time. When we have a stressful week and somebody walk and there you open the front door and your partner or whoever's in your home, a roommate maybe says, "How's your day? How was your week?" And you're like, "Oh my God, traffic sucked and I was late and this one person really annoyed me and this thing didn't come through and that package didn't arrive on time and da 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 da." We tend to dump negative energy on the people closest to us in our lives. So, where's your focus? Is your focus on the things that bring you joy or the things that are stressing you out in your life? And unfortunately, in our fast paced society, oftentimes there's so much stress that we become focused on that stress. So, you have the power to shift everything when you shift your focus. And I love this picture so much because it really shows us when we can shift our focus from stress to joy, it really improves every aspect of our lives. We have better health. Remember, so like that, I talked about the ankle injury story. It's like I had significantly better health when I shifted the power of my focus to how I'm healing, where I'm healing, being connected to my ankle, my body's ultimate healing power, all of that stuff. I felt I shifted my life. When I focus on the positivity, I've shifted my relationships, and everything in your life shifts when you have the power, shift the power of your focus. And I want to tell you a quick story about this because a long time ago, and it goes right along with this sock story, because obviously, when my husband was upset with me, it had nothing to do with this sock. And so, what it really was is my husband felt nitpicked and criticized. And I can't remember if it was before or after that argument, but at one point he came to me and he was like, "Kitty, I can't do anything right." And I was like, "Okay, tell me more." And he's like, "Every time I do something, every time I clean, you only tell me, look at the spot you missed. Every time I do something, you're always pointing out the 1% that's not perfect. And I just want you to let you know I feel really beaten down by your focus that, like, can't you see that I cleaned the house? Like, why do you have to notice the streaks on the windows, or like why do you have to say that out loud?" And what I realized in that moment was I'm a recovering perfectionist. My perfectionism and the focus on what's not perfect was really affecting everything in my life. And so what happened, so I thanked my husband because it's taken years to build this, but we have an open, honest communication channel that we can say anything to each other because we speak in love, we respect each other, and we are 100% committed to our relationship. And so we give each other the time and space to share things like this. And so I thanked him for sharing. And we had a little discussion about it. I was like, "Okay, let me reflect on this." And I started to notice I was doing it to everyone, not just my husband. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart how sad he was because he felt so defeated by my words. And I was like, "Well, no, I'm not. I just want it to be done right." I rationalized it in my head, and then I started to notice I was doing it to everybody in my life. And And I'd say things like, people are like, oh, I did this. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, it could have been better or whatever. And I was very unconsciously seeing these things. And so I was doing it to myself, and I was tormenting everybody in my life with my focus and my need for things to be perfect and done the right way, which what is right anyways, because what's right for you isn't right for me. Like, I'm anaphylactically allergic to tree nuts. Tree nuts are not a right choice for my diet, but they might be a right choice for you. So what's right anyways? But anyways, when I noticed this, and bless my husband for having the courage to say this to me, because I was able to improve all of the relationships in my life just by shifting my focus. So our lives are basically, generally speaking, 80% positive and about 20% negative. But what happens is, evolutionarily, when we think back to caveman times, it was like, think about a caveman. If somebody in your tribe was bitten by a snake and died, you better remember exact color and patterning and what that snake looked like, because your life and your children's life depended on it. So what does that mean? That means our brains are hardwired to focus on the negative, and our brains actually amplify the negative by more than 3 times. So if your life is only 20% negative, it feels like 60% negative. So let's say you're having some stressful life events that are happening right now, and your life is 40% negative. That feels like 120%. And that's when we start to get overwhelmed and all these things. And it's not that it's not like we're blowing things up or whatever. Our brains are hardwired to focus on the negative. My brain is hardwired to focus on what's going wrong and all these little details, because in caveman times, evolutionarily, that could have saved my life. But well, it's not serving me now. So the good news is I have a choice that I can shift it. But I just wanted to share this from an evolutionary standpoint. Our brains are literally hardwired to focus on the negative. So just a moment of reflection. When the last time somebody close to you asked you, how was your day? What's the first thing you said to them? Most times people, when they say this, they're like, oh, I talked about what didn't go well on that client and all these negative things. It's often that people will be connected to, and they share the negative first. And it's okay. Like, we are all on this journey together. There is no judgment. There is no shame. This is about, like, please don't beat yourself up if you found, when you ask yourself this question, you're like, oh my God, I'm dumping on my partner. Don't worry, or anybody in your life. Don't, because when we get angry and upset with ourselves, that's actually negative reinforcement. And all that does is that makes us shut down. It makes us not want to learn and grow. So anytime I'm like, oh, I'm dumping on somebody, because I still do it. I still notice every once in a while. It doesn't happen often anymore. But I still sometimes accidentally dump on people, or get into this place where I'm sharing, and then I'm like, wow. And I'll catch myself and be like, I'm complaining. I'm so sorry. But it's about having this open-hearted curiosity, not judging yourself, and just saying, you do the best you can. When you know better, you do better. And so you're learning better today. And so from this point forward, you can just start to slowly shift and implement this. And I want to acknowledge that our lives are not always sunshine and rainbows. Like, negative things happen, and there are hard things that we need to talk to with our partner sometimes, or whoever in our lives. Like, sometimes we need to have tough conversations. And so I'm not saying don't say anything negative ever to your partner, but I'm just saying, when you're communicating, generally starting with the positive goes a long way into feeling good. And like, if you've ever, I teach conflict management. Basically, I teach a lot of leadership soft skills, so communication, conflict management, and resolution, and all these different things. But if you're ever wanting to give somebody feedback, the Oreo method works really well, where you say something nice, or a compliment or something positive about them, and then you give them a feedback that they could perceive as negative, but you do it, with compassion and with the earnest desire to just support them in being better. And then you end with a compliment. And that sandwich cookie effect really is beneficial. So I'm encouraging you to have that sandwich cookie approach when you are talking to people. Share your joy. And then if you need to vent or say something it's not so positive, then you can communicate that. And then be sure to end on something that leaves people feeling uplifted. That's what I really love to do. Is I'll usually start, when anytime I meet somebody or somebody asks me how my day, If they ask me, how are you? I'll say, here's what I'm celebrating. And even if it's, I put on pants today, it doesn't matter how big or how small, I will share that celebration and then we'll have our conversation. I'll end them with, what are you gonna, what are you going to focus on moving forward? What's one thing you were inspired by the conversation? Just something like, what's something you're going to do this month to support yourself, just something that lifts them up. And this is why we do this, is if we don't manage our focus, we use our partners and the people in our lives as punching bags. And it horrified me when my partner shared with me, my husband, that I had been using him as a punching bag and just dumping garbage on him and criticizing him. And when he shared how he felt, it literally was just devastating. And I was using everybody in my life as a punching bag and I just didn't know it. And so when we use people as a punching bag, what it's really costing us is just another brick in the wall between us and that person in our lives. So, what if we could just check our baggage at the door? What if we could just release the negative things that happen to us, like our emotional attachment to sharing those things? And your homework, should you choose to accept it, is just to focus on the positive first. I love this image so much. It is so fun. If you, the next time, and just try this one thing. Every time, or as many times a day as you can remember, somebody asks you, how's your day? Or how are you doing? Or what's up? You share something positive with them. Because when we share something positive, our positivity becomes infectious and we light up our day. And I often find, even if I share, when somebody asks me how I am, I share what I'm celebrating. Spontaneously, most people will just share, well, I'm celebrating this. Like, and they'll come up with something too. And I've brightened their day. You can see their face light up, their body language changes. They feel more positive. So your homework, should you choose to accept it, is just to focus on joy first. Like, yes, there are rain clouds in our life and yes, negative things happen, but if we can focus on our joy first, it really goes a long way to creating connection in our relationships. And so if you are ready to break down the brick wall in your relationships, I would love to support you in doing that. Really, there's only two steps and they're simple, but not always easy. In fact, rarely easy unless you have the tools to do them. In order to break down I love that you've already been giving positive compliments to people and spreading that positivity and joy. I love that. And that literally is how we can light up the world one person at a time. And that's the way you're breaking down the brick wall. So the two things we do to reduce the brick wall is we need to stop putting bricks on the wall and we need to remove the bricks that are already on the wall. And good news is, as a neuroscientist and magnetic mind coach, I have a plethora of tools to support you in breaking down the brick wall so you can feel more connected and loved and supported in your relationships. So I just want to share with you, if you're interested in learning more about how you can connect in your relationship, I would love to invite you to a free 45-minute coaching call. A relationship reconnection session is what I call it. And what we do in this session is we talk about, what are the tips that you can do today? What can you implement today or tomorrow, depending on the day? But immediately steps that you can do to start reconnecting in your relationships, to stop putting bricks in the wall and start taking bricks off the wall. And then if it's a good fit, if I'll share with you the roadmap moving forward of how I can help you with using neuroscience and all the tools that I have in my toolbox to create better connection in your life. So typically, and this is what that says, typically I'll pop this in the chat in case it's relevant and you want to book a session. You might have to copy paste that. I'm seeing now it's not a link. Sorry about that. But please don't miss this opportunity to feel seen, heard, and supported in our relationships. Like, I am a master demasoner. Like, I'm a master at breaking down these brick walls. And my goal is for everyone to feel loved, supported, seen, and heard in their relationships. And there are very simple and easy tools that you can apply, but the process of reconnecting isn't always easy if you don't have the tools. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. This is my email, kittycoyco@gmail.com. And with that, I will stop the recording and take any questions that you have.